Illinois has its man at quarterback. Welcome into the Illini Inquirer Podcast. Jeremy Werner flying solo on this Saturday morning, and late Friday night, Illinois gets the positive news. The Brett signal is activated, as Joey Wagner likes to say, and you figured it could be some big transfer news because this is the biggest addition, the biggest item on the checklist for Brett Bielema this offseason, and that is finding a starting quarterback. And it looks like Illinois has done that in landing Syracuse quarterback Tommy DeVito. We reported last week that DeVito was on campus. He was at the basketball game, saw him there, and he figured he has to be one of the top options for Illinois. So on this podcast, be a little shorter today since it's just me. We'll break down what DeVito brings, what that means that he is here with Illinois, and what it says about Illinois, that he is the guy and that he comes here so quickly. Just to give you a little bit of Tommy DeVito, former four-star prospect. He's actually the highest ranked recruit that Dino Babers has gotten at Syracuse. Now, Dino Babers had a 10-win season in 2018, hasn't been so successful since then. I believe they're 5-21 in the ACC since then. And one really good year from Tommy DeVito at Syracuse in 2019, when Syracuse went 5-7, DeVito threw for 2,360 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. I went back and watched a lot of film of DeVito, and often he was having to throw the ball a lot because Syracuse's defense wasn't very good. Syracuse's pass protection wasn't very good in the games that I saw, but you can see why DeVito had such success. I mean, there's a lot of talent in him. He's 6'2", 215, not as big as Brandon Peters, but a huge arm. He can really, really stretch the field, and he can throw it 60 yards in the air. He really likes to throw the deep ball, which is something Tony Petersen wants to do much better. Now you dive into some of these numbers with Pro Football Focus, and the accuracy with some of these deep balls isn't that great, but watching some of the film, there was a lot of times Syracuse's defense would give up 30, 40 points in the first half, at least in the games that I saw. And he just had to air it out. I mean, he had to take chances. So I don't want to dive into those numbers too much, but when you look at the actual film, and I did a film review, if you want to check that out on the website last week, and I updated it so it's near the top of the site now. But man, he can really throw it with good touch, give his receivers a chance to make these plays. And he had some good receivers, one of which, Taj Harris, who was in the transfer portal and recently decommitted from Kentucky. So I think Odo would love if he gave Taj Harris a call. I don't know anything about that at this point, but it would be ideal if you can add a guy who can stretch the field, had 2,000 receiving yards at Syracuse, and was Tommy DeVito's favorite target. But his sophomore year, his redshirt sophomore year at Syracuse, he redshirted 2017, 2018, played a little bit, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, obviously getting his feet wet. And then 2019 had a really great statistical year. Now Syracuse went 5-7 that year. Their defense wasn't very good, as I said, but you're thinking, man, Tommy DeVito could be really, really good. And then the COVID year, 2020, had several injuries, including he had some injuries in the 2019 season that he played through, but 2020 had a leg injury that kept him out for most of the season. But in the time he played, only completed 50% of his passes, 6.2 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And then this year, started the season as a starter, completed 62% of his passes, 7.5 yards per attempt. Not too bad, but only 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions in that. And then Syracuse and Dino Babers, who had added a transfer quarterback. So they clearly didn't believe fully in Tommy DeVito, but they added Garrett Schrader, a kid from Mississippi State, who's more of a run-first quarterback. And they decided to change up their system. I haven't been able to see exactly why they wanted to do that, but they wanted to run the ball more. I'm guessing it's in part to maybe go away from the high-octane, high-tempo offense that Dino Babers still runs, and maybe control the ball a little bit more because their defense was just giving up so many points over these years. But Garrett Schrader was a really good runner for Syracuse this year. He wasn't any better as a passer than Tommy DeVito, that's for sure, but he was able to have success on the ground. And Syracuse went 5-7 again. And it does seem like Tommy DeVito and Dino Babers, had a pretty amicable exit there, understanding that Tommy in his last season of eligibility wants a better spot. So now he finds it at Illinois. I do think this marriage makes a lot of sense for both sides. Tommy's looking for a Power 5 opportunity. Illinois has a Power 5 opportunity. And for him, I think this offense under Tony Petersen can make some more sense for him. Maybe having a better run game, though Syracuse had a pretty good running back the last couple of years. Maybe having a better run game and maybe a slower tempo can help him a little bit. And that's going to be the interesting thing for me to watch is the last 2 years, Tommy DeVito hasn't had a ton of success, but he had successes in 2019. What does a new scheme, what does a new coaching staff, what can Tony Petersen get out of him in a year? And for Tony Petersen, I think he's probably excited about the talent that is here with Tommy DeVito. He doesn't come with these ridiculous numbers, but he does come with 3,800 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. That's more than Brandon Peters had when he came here, right, at Illinois. And obviously Brandon Peters, the last 2 years especially, was not consistently effective. But there were 4 games at the end of the season where Brandon Peters played good ball, right? And you can include the end of the Penn State game in there if you want. But the last 4 games Illinois got out of Brandon Peters is the type of quarterback play they want. If they can get that consistently out of Tommy DeVito, man, you feel like you have a good chance. Like you're going to upgrade the quarterback position, because the quarterback position through 8 games was just pretty much atrocious for Illinois. Art Sikowski had a good game against Nebraska when he came in relief, but the 7 games after that was just not good enough. So if you can just elevate that play, I mean, Brandon Peters' last 4 games of the season had a pass efficiency rating of 146. That's best quarterback in the Big Ten West if that's over an entire season. But you're not even asking, I don't think, Tommy DeVito to do that. If you can get 130 to 135 pass efficiency rating, Illinois hasn't had that, guys, in a long time. I think Nathan Shieldhouse, like Riley O'Toole had a good end of a season. Wes Lunt had some decent years, decent stretches at Illinois, but they just haven't had that kind of efficient quarterback play. Good accuracy, make some big plays, and just not turning the ball over that often in a really, really long time. I also think this does make some sense for Illinois. I know some people wanted a multi-year option. That would have been ideal. Some people would have liked maybe somebody who doesn't have as many flaws. Sure, that would have been ideal. Were you getting Spencer Rattler? No. Were you getting Max Johnson? No, probably not. Right? Were you getting Miles Brennan, Chuba Purdy, Michael Penix, some of the top names in the market? No, because there's a lot of Power 5 schools that have had more success with quarterbacks that weren't the 117th ranked scoring offense in the country, that weren't, one of the worst passing offenses in the country, that need quarterbacks. So those guys are going to look towards there. Jack Plummer was a name I thought would make a lot of sense, but I also think Jack Plummer from Purdue with a couple years of eligibility, I don't know if he ends up at another Power 5 school, but I do think he's going to have a lot of good options. So to get Tommy DeVito on board now, especially, I really emphasize now, was important for Illinois. So I wrote this morning about what it means. You might see this as a C+ or B- edition. And if you're disappointed in that, I can kind of get it, but is Illinois in position to pass up a C+ B- option? And I think DeVito could be better than that. Maybe he won't be that, but if you get a C+ to B- Big Ten quarterback, that's a huge improvement over what Illinois has had. So that bird in the hand, I think it would be really tough for Illinois to pass up. And I think the fact that they got Tommy DeVito here on campus in December, right, the first weekend of December, and that they wanted to take him right away, I think that tells you what they think about Tommy DeVito. I think it tells you what they think about the other options that they thought were gettable for them. I think it also tells you about the urgency they have of getting somebody in right away and having an entire spring ball with him, especially someone that's talented like DeVito. I mean, there are really good traits here. I've mentioned his arm. I've mentioned his experience, which they think is really important. I think he's got some confidence and some swagger to him, but also he's got some running ability. He's a really good athlete. He's not going to run the ball like Schrader did, but I think he's a better runner than we saw from Brandon Peters. And Brandon Peters could really, move the chains at times. So I think DeVito can add that. I do think the injury history is a little bothersome. And whenever a guy gets replaced as a quarterback, there's some issues there, right? Like there's some concerns there, but he's certainly an upgrade over what they have currently in the room. And with Art Sikowski out for spring ball, you need a quarterback. You want to give those reps, those really important reps of 15 practices to somebody that's going to start for you, or at least you hope is going to start for you. So Art Sikowski had a year in the system. Now he didn't have spring ball. Brandon Peters, when he got here, didn't have spring ball to get him ready to be the starter. You have an entire year, 8 months to get Tommy DeVito up to speed because he graduates at Syracuse this month. He gets to campus in January and he's the guy. He can get to know his coaches. He can get to know his scheme. He can get to know his teammates. And he has that entire year to get ready for his last year of eligibility here at Illinois. So I think it makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense for Illinois to wrap this one up now. And is it going to work out? I have no idea. You want him to stay healthy. That's the number one thing. But I asked Tony Petersen back in last month, November, because it was clear Illinois needed, right, a transfer quarterback. So I told him, I know you're probably going to be in the market for a transfer quarterback. What are you looking for? What do you want in a transfer quarterback? He said, obviously, ideally, you don't want to go into the portal and have to rely on that for your quarterback every year. That's not where Illinois is, obviously, right now, right? But he said, if you're looking at transfers, you're looking at guys who can throw the ball accurately, have a natural arm talent, are confident, have played on an offense where they've actually been in and played quite a few games, and you can see how they function out there. Then you're looking at character, leadership, a winner, the guy you want leading your football team. There's a lot that goes into quarterback more than just throwing the football. You got to put a lot of time into it to make sure you get the right guy. Tommy DeVito has been in the portal for a couple months now. So you can guarantee that Illinois has been doing a lot of research on him. And he does check off a lot of those things that he was saying. Experience, can throw the ball. He's confident. At times he's throwing the ball pretty dang accurately. He's really good in underneath throws. The longer throws, which are harder to complete, he had to throw a lot of those because they were trying to play catch up a lot. But I can see why Tony Petersen would like Tommy DeVito and why he'd want to bring him in here. So the expectation, is it way higher than Brandon Peters for most people probably coming into this year? No, but I think Brandon Peters early in the season was pretty disappointing. And injuries obviously played a role in that. COVID in 2020 played a role in that. But if you can get more consistent quarterback play, I think that is the key. And this is going to be really interesting to watch Tony Petersen, right? I know a lot of you understandably upset with the offense this year and finding a rhythm. Tony Petersen, I thought at times could have been better. And he's said that. I think Brandon Peters and Art Sikowski need to be a lot better. I think the pass protection, once that got better, the quarterback play got better. They need to upgrade probably wide receiver, at least one spot there, right? So, but you did see, I thought, some encouraging signs out of the offense the last 4 games, especially Tony getting the offense going early. And then once Brandon was able to complete some downfield throws, all of a sudden this offense looked a little better, right? It looked just way more competitive. It just didn't do it consistently. And that's the next step. And for Tony Petersen, Tommy DeVito is a huge task in front of him to see what can he get, what can he do with a full year of a quarterback, what can he accomplish with him? Because Brandon Peters, obviously the injuries impacted that, but wasn't great, right? And he had a full year with Brandon. Now we'll see if he can upgrade with Tommy DeVito. But you had to get somebody in here with Art Sikowski out for spring ball. You had Ryan Johnson as your number one option going into spring ball. Division II transfer walk-on. Behind him, Matt Robinson, who's going to be a fifth-year junior. And obviously, Matt Robinson has had some moments where he's had to play, but the staff clearly doesn't think he's starter-level territory. And then Samari Collier, I know a lot of people are excited about the arm talent. He's raw, right? You don't want to count on that. And then Donovan Leary, I'm excited to see. This is the first hand-picked quarterback for Tony Petersen. And, Donovan didn't have the greatest numbers in high school. Joey went out and saw him, said, the talent around him wasn't the best. So how much do you put into that? But Illinois evaluated him, really liked him. He's the younger brother of Devin Leary. He's had a great career at NC State, had a great season this past year. So it's a great resource to have your brother been going through all those things, but to expect him to come in and play, like I don't expect any true freshman to come in and play, especially at Illinois. It usually doesn't work out that well. Juice Williams' freshman year didn't work out that well, but Illinois might as well throw him to the wolves at that point. Nathan Chilas had a redshirt year before his redshirt freshman year was really good. And it's rare to have a redshirt freshman play that well. It's just a huge leap. So to expect him to come in and play like that, listen, if you got a 5-star kid, yeah, maybe you can expect him to come in and play right away. But even some of these 4-stars, look at Art Sikowski, look at Brandon Peters. Like they don't take over right away. Usually you got to give them some time. So this is a stopgap measure, but I think it's a solid one. And I know Tom Fornelli usually is tweeting this out about coaching hires. Will it work out? I have no idea. I think Tommy DeVito is a solid addition for Illinois. I don't know if it'll work out, but he certainly has the tools Illinois wants and certainly has the experience that Illinois needs at this position. So are you going to go into next year with Tommy DeVito and think, yep, Big Ten West championship? No, because there's a lot of other work to do on this team, especially on this offense. But you feel better with Tommy DeVito going into the year, right? You feel better about Art Sikowski maybe getting healthy because he was obviously playing through a shoulder injury this year we didn't know about at the time. So him as your backup, I still feel solid about, right? Like I think he can give you a chance and hopefully he can be better with a full healthy year and a full year behind him. And he just brings really good leadership traits. So I think Illinois feels pretty good about its top 2 options now. And I think Illinois was kind of realistic about what they could get in the transfer portal at this point in time after the offensive year they had. And to get Tommy DeVito, a former 4-star prospect who 2 years ago, Syracuse was probably elated about. And then injuries happen. And then they changed their offense up a little bit and find maybe a better option that they wanted. This transfer portal, man, some talented guys are in the portal. And if you find the right one, you find the right fit, you can have a successful year. And we'll see if Tommy DeVito can bring that to Illinois. But now Illinois's got a lot more work to do, right? Like this is one of the last things I put in my what it means is now you need to surround him with more talent. He was running for his life a lot of times that I saw at Syracuse. And that's because the offensive line wasn't very good. But Illinois' offensive line has huge question marks. So while you can dream of Taj Harris, the wide receiver, and sure, I'd take him. And wide receiver, yes, Illinois could use an upgrade. But I think offensive line is the far bigger need right now. I think that's got to be the far bigger priority right now because you got Julian Pearl probably at left tackle. And I think he's got an exciting future. He's pretty good present as well. But outside of him, who you plug into that starting lineup? You know, Josh Kreutz and Zach Barlev played as true freshmen, got the red shirt still, and they saw some encouraging things, but you plug him into the lineup right away. Zach Barlev, I mentioned him already. Alex Pihlstrom has experience, serviceable. I think he'd be an okay starter for you. Jordan Slaughter, I've always been kind of high on, but last year misses the year with the ankle injury. I think he would have started some games last year if he was healthy, but he just hasn't played a lot of football, right? He's got 1 start in his career last year, 2020 against Penn State. That's all you got of him. And then a lot of redshirt freshmen and freshmen. Brett Bielema got into trouble with some of the comments he made about the offensive line recruiting before he got there, about not having guys in the 2 deep from the previous 3 recruiting classes. That's showing up right now. And that's why they have to find at least 2 starters in the portal, likely a tackle. We're looking at a lot of Ivy League people right now, which there's some good Ivy League guys in the portal right now. And then the interior, I think you need at least 1 interior starter. Heck, I would take 3 offensive linemen if they got enough scholarship spots for them, but I think you need at least 2 starters to come in and protect Tommy DeVito. Otherwise, you don't want this guy running for his life. He's got an injury history. Things can go south right away if you don't have good protection there. And obviously, Illinois needs to move the ball running. So that'll be the next big important one. Tight ends one to watch. Josiah Myman from Iowa, took a visit here a couple of weeks ago. Former highly rated 3-star prospect from in-state, went to Dunlap. Didn't play at Iowa very much, but was in there 3 deep. And obviously Iowa's got some good tight ends. And he was Daniel Barker to the draft. I think Daniel probably plans on staying in the NFL draft. And there's people that are really interested in him. So to add somebody like Myman, who's a little bit more athletic pass catcher, to go along with Luke Ford, who's a devastating run blocker at times. Needs to improve the passing game, right? But I think you feel good about Luke Ford and Tip Ryman, what you saw from them. To add somebody a little bit different like Josiah Myaman, who might add more in the pass game, I think would be a really, really good addition. And then defensively, probably got to find a starting cornerback. With Kalen Tolson kind of surprising us entering the draft. Do you need to add an inside linebacker for depth? I feel good about CJ Hart and Tariq Barnes as your starters, but all of a sudden depth might be an issue there. I think nose guard might be the biggest need on defense. And Tayra Edwards, Northwestern defensive tackle, could be visiting this weekend, and that would be a nice addition up there to help with Calvin Avery and Vertus Brown. And edge rusher, I think they have solid depth there. You lose Isaiah Gay and Owen Carney though, and that's gonna be really difficult to replace. I feel good about Seth Coleman if healthy. He's a really explosive player off the edge. You've already added Virginia Tech transfer Alec Bryan, who's got 4 years of eligibility remaining. Big, stout kid, really good athlete. I think Ezekiel Holmes played a lot towards the end of the season, especially. So you might be able to put him into the mix. DJ Johnson, a year of strength and conditioning. The staff recruited him out of high school last year. He played. He's going to be a sophomore this year, so he didn't even redshirt. So I think they're excited about him. So if you can add somebody that's an Antonio Doyle-like presence there, and Doyle can play inside or outside at linebacker, them in Missouri seem up there. As I've said before, transfers, it's always the academic stuff is always interesting to watch. So with Doyle, that'll be interesting. But you could use upgrades at all those spots. But for me, offensive line is got to be the next things you check off your box. You're right. I mean, you got to find a nose guard and offensive line. Those are my two biggest things that I think these next couple of weeks, you really want to get some people in for January. Wide receiver, I think you can add somebody, if you can upgrade talent. Tommy maybe can help you pitch to a wide receiver. Hey, look at this guy. Look at Taj Harris, what he was able to do with him. Maybe you're able to add a wide receiver. But if that's in June, that's fine. For me, offensive line, defensive line, I think those guys you want to add right now and over the next couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting to watch. And we'll cover it all at IlliniInquirer.com. There's so much going on right now. You got early signing day. I just spent my Thursday and Friday typing up all my signing day spotlights, just breaking down these players, what they bring to Illinois. I always have fun with kind of these Illini comps, who they remind me of in the past decade, really, of Illinois football. So I've got all those ready. We've got a ton of content ready for that. And of course, it is, I'm recording this just before 9 a.m. on Saturday, December 11th. So most of you guys getting ready for a huge basketball game at State Farm Center. We'll be covering the heck out of that, as well as Illinois basketball tries to get a marquee win. And right now we got a great deal, 50% off a VIP membership to IlliniInquirer.com, an annual VIP membership. So any new, and if you're a monthly user right now and you want to upgrade, get a nice discount for the next year and upgrade to annual, you can take advantage of that right now. So we got that deal going on through Wednesday. It's a savings of more than $60. So if you want to sign up for Illini Inquirer and haven't done so yet, highly encourage you to do that right now. But thank you as always for listening to the Illini Inquirer podcast. Give us a follow, a rating, review wherever you get your podcast. And until next time, everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We will talk to you next time, which will probably be a few hours after the Illinois-Arizona game. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer podcast.